cases, I use a worm screw. Whereas you basically, you know, I do the old crisscross method, find my center. I drilled like an 11/32 hole. I found that a 5/16 going into a hard maple is a very, very tight hole. So I went 11/32. Main thing is make sure when you drill it that you don't drill out the bottom, but give yourself long enough that you can tighten it up. So if you've got a lock on your spindle, now would be the time to lock it. That way it doesn't turn on you. Then you can just start this thing. I like threading this on and bottoming it out. Make sure it's good and tight. And if you've got a good flat surface, the jaws will straighten it. It will square it up for you. And basically, that worm screw is just held in the 4-jaw chuck. Okay, now if I was at home, I probably wouldn't even bring the tailstock up. Depends on how big it was. If I was on my Powermatic, I would probably bring the tailstock up because it'd be a bigger piece. I really don't know how big you can actually hold with the worm screw, but I've held some sizable pieces. If it's a natural edge or something like that, it's very hard to use a worm screw because you don't get a good surface when you're pulling it up. I have drilled out a spot before in like a rough turn. I call this like a finished product wood. Like this has been planed and stuff like that. If you're going on something out of a tree, a log, then you might want to go between centers. But with small stuff, this is a way to go. It's quick and easy. We'll go ahead and put the tailstock up there so you can see what it's like to get started. Okay. I like the easy wood tools for roughing out. You can use a roughing tool or whatever. I'm going to leave a little bit of a flange right here and just have a little bit of a ring or a flange bowl. So. Okay, at that stage right there, I would go ahead and sand that and get the outside profile basically sanded. When I usually leave a tenon on here, I usually incorporate the tenon back into the foot. So like this radius right here, I left a shoulder for my jaws to go up against, but whenever I reverse this back around to finish the foot, I would probably radius that shoulder off a little bit and cut that tenon. The tenon will be cut down maybe about 1/8 of an inch on length, and I will radius that shoulder back into it. So I'm not really worried about this right here where my thumb's at, because I'm going to radius that back in. I just left that shoulder proud of what it's supposed to be, so the jaws will have something to hit against. Okay, now the idea of this thing, you could either take and run a Forstner bit down through there to get you a pilot hole started, or you can just sit there and start hogging it out. Little one like this, we're just going to hog it out. Now, one thing I do whenever I'm cutting this out, that's when you work on your finished cuts. Whenever you can, try to just try to do a finished cut in there. So when you do get down to your bottom and you want to have a good finished cut, you've done about 40 practice cuts through here just getting there. What I'm doing now is just basically getting the rim trimmed back to where there's nothing left as far as the bad part. And the critical thing is don't cut through the bottom of your bowl. I just use the old thumb and hold it technique, you know, so you can get a real close one. You got to remember we got the tenon on the bottom, so you could go a little bit shallower if you wanted to. Basically, what we're going to do is just going to leave the wall thickness a little thick, but we want to try to keep that uniform all the way around. Especially if you're working with green lumber, green wood, it's very important you try to keep the wall thickness the same so it dries evenly.
Question for you, Dennis.
Okay.
I've never turned a bowl before, okay?
Okay.
And I'm watching you kind of do a push cut as you go in. Why a push cut as opposed to a pull cut?
Can't ride the bevel.
Yeah.
Can't ride the bevel?
Going in, you
Yeah.
can, if you push it in, you can ride the bevel.
Okay.
And you can got better control.
See it?
But
Yeah.
it also won't cut quite as good. So
Yeah.
you got to be real careful there, how sharp the tool is and everything.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
See, if you see, whenever I pick up the cut, like if I was to go in here and pick up the cut, okay, you can close the bevel down like this
Right.
and start twisting it open and pick up your cut. And by riding that bevel right there, you're able to pick up that cut that you just might have left in there. And then you can open it up, see it start cutting, and then just take off pushing it on in.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, when I get set up here, you want to have a good stance,
Right.
okay? And what I'll do is I'll lean out and I'll start cutting. So whenever, and I can make one continuous cut in there, but you got to be leaning out, start the cut, and then bring it around, and so you can move your body around, you know, where you're doing one continuous cut that way. So don't just walk over here and just plump down and then you stroke yourself out. You can't make the cut. You gotta lean past it, you know. And what I like trying to do as far as, come here a second. See how you see looking from that direction right there. You see your outside bowl profile?
Yes.
Okay. Whenever you're making your cut, you see the outside bowl profile. You can turn that cutter to where that cutter is going straight or following your profile,
Right.
and you can get started and follow that and watch this and look at your profile, and you're wanting to imagine parallel lines,
Okay.
you know. So that's one thing I look at is what my outside profile looks like.
All right.
Looking from this direction to get started.
Just try to follow it. Just try to mimic
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Try to mimic it. So,
All right.
So we'll see if we can knock that little nubbin off down there. And what I did was I went in and started touching this bevel to a place back beyond, got it rubbing, and then went into it. And since you're rubbing against it right there, you set your height of your cut, and then you just go on and follow that right on in. See, I'm out here rubbing. Right there I'm cutting. With no sanding. So, I mean, that right there is, to me, I wouldn't, if I was at home, I would just go to sandpaper and be done. But I want to show you this tool here in case any of you have trouble getting a good smooth radius there, the bottom where you've got where you got cut lines, like ripples. You might have ripples down there, and you want to take out the ripples. What I've got is I've got a scraper with a negative rake. You want to have the scraper in a decline like this compared to your bowl. So I'm going to raise the tool rest up. I'm going to raise the tool rest up so I can elevate the handle. It really doesn't need it, but I just want to show this for in case anyone has any questions about how this tool works. And so you present it like this, and then you just follow the contour. This is where I go from inside out. And generally speaking, the outside of your bowl, like I didn't do anything to the outside because I felt like it was good enough. You want to progress in. If you go down to where you got, say we took this down to 1/4 inch wall thickness, and you're 16 inches in diameter, you want to step in increments. You want to go in an inch or so, and you want to make sure that's good. Because once you get, if it's a 10-inch deep bowl and it's 16 inches diameter, it's going to be moving on you. So you progress in. I would only use this right here on the bottom because hopefully you've got everything good at that point. I went out to the outside edge. You hear that sound? That's that vibration that I was talking about if you start getting it down smaller. So that's why you want to be done with that outside before you go in any farther. But anyway, that's, to me, I would sand this at this point. Your edges and everything would all be done. Any questions up to this point?
You had that scraper pointed down.
I had
You at the center line?
I was at the center line with the point, with the cutter itself. I was at the center point. You know, the tool was angled. Yeah. They say if you went in flat, Keith, am I telling it right? If you go in flat, you got more chance of catch.
I always do.
You go in flat,
If I went flat, I want more after catch.
you always caught.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you.
Okay. Yeah, because I've always, and I'm like Keith, I would catch. You don't want to catch with something that size. You know.
Well, you have a big gouge that you
Well,
don't want.
and also the relationship to it, maybe to your head. If you're in here looking and it catches, your head's right there. But that's what I use, and it's a negative rake, and I try not to ever have to use it. You know, as you've seen, I had a pretty decent finish cut with just my bow gouge. So that's usually what I want to go with is my bow gouge and get a good finish cut. I seem to be able to control it better, but there's always that little ripple. Every once in a while you have a little ripple in there, and you can take this thing and you can pull out stuff like that right there just by lightly making a cut. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in just a rounded piece with a piece of what'd you call it, Eric?
It's craft foam.
Craft foam. Eric Gurrier turned me onto this stuff, and it works great. I've got a one-way tailstock or a live center, and I've got a cone that goes on it. So whenever you reverse something, you can put that cone like a vase. Well, I put that craft foam on there and put it up inside that vase. Oh, it worked great. Did not mar it. You know, it was finished. It didn't mar it or anything, and it was perfect. and it's only like, what, $1 a sheet or less. But I would highly recommend go to Craft Supply, pick you up a 10-pack or a 5-pack or something of this craft foam, because it will save your turnings. If you know, this is probably going to make a mark because it might be a little bit big for that radius on the bottom. But what I would normally do is try to turn a radius on here that's going to match the radius of your inside of your bolt. That's what you want. And then put your craft foam on there, and that way it takes care of it.
You know, another thing, besides that craft foam that I've used a lot is just the padding you use for your carpet,
Yep.
just carpet padding. You put it on there, it works really well too.
Whoa. And something like this is trial and error. I do have the center in it. There's my center point when we first started. So I can go, I have got that. We'll call that good. Because all you're wanting to do now is work on this foot down here. So the theory of what we're going to do is we're going to try to get our profile for our finished foot, and then we're going to try to undercut the foot itself. So then whenever you get down to maybe, I get scared sometimes, I might take it off to the 1/2-inch tenon right there, or 3/4 tenon, just because I don't want to lose the piece. You know, the last thing you want is to spend 6-7 hours on something, you got it done, and you're 30 seconds away from taking it off the lathe, and it goes flying across the room because you busted the tenon out. So on a small piece like this, you can take it down smaller. I usually have a pointed, it's a detail gouge that I use for spindles and stuff that I usually get in here because it's a lot pointer to gouge, and I can reach back in there farther. I didn't bring it with me, so we'll just take this down and give it a little bit of profile and just show you the basics of it. So. Always make sure when you chuck something back up in there and you've moved your tool rest, always turn that thing. Just give it a spin, because you don't want that thing flying or coming around there and you realize you was too close and now you've tore everything up. So what I'm going to try now is I'm going to blend this shoulder into that foot, maybe take the foot down a little bit smaller, because they got a thing that, what's the ratio, 1 to 3? 3 inches, you know, if it's 3 inches in diameter, you want a 1 inch foot, or how, I don't know how those ratios go. I just look at it. If it's pleasing to me, then it's right. You know, it doesn't have to please, I don't have to please you, and you don't have to please me, but if that's the kind of foot you want, then that's what you want to go with. But they do have the professionals have a theory on how big a foot you would have for the diameter of a piece. But main thing you want is that it will sit once you get done, or it just falls over. So, you know, what might be pleasing might not work. Okay, I've got a little ridge right there I might try to take out. You can just see it's a little fingernail thing, but And it doesn't hurt to shut the machine off. You're gonna move the tool rest. Even though I'm sure we all shut it off to move the tool rest. That's right. Okay. Well, there right there, I would basically, I'm going to leave the tenon on there as much as I can because I'll probably take this home and finish it. Looks like pretty cute bolts. But anyway, hope you learned something out of this.
Then you take the middle of it out?
Now, what I would do is, if I can't get it any farther, you could put use your cold jaws. You could take a piece of blank and cut a hole where this would jam fit inside of it. Vacuum chuck. You could hold the vacuum chuck, or you could sit down between your legs with a chisel, pare it out, and then get in there and sand it. But the best way would be do it on the lathe with the cold jaws, and that way you're able to take that whole tenon off and finish it right there on the spot. So there it is.